And let's go ahead and get started, James. Let's talk about
Yeah.
how live music in your eyes in the year 2100. What do you think? Where's heavy metal's place in the year 2100, and how much will AI have to do with live music?
See, I'm actually starting to believe that live music is going to have a resurgence
Hmm.
because of AI.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen it, but I saw some crazy thing that on the US country music charts, two of the top five songs are not bands. They're actually AI generated hits.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that's going to become the norm on like radio and streaming and stuff. And people are going to get fed up with it. And live music, the live experience,
Hmm.
songs written by people,
Right.
even just a guitar player, singer, songwriter sitting at a pub playing is going to be like an experience. So it's going to like, I think it's almost going to reverse. We've probably got, well, 10, 20 years of shit music coming.
Sure.
But I think after that, um, the live feel will actually be a premium.
Okay, I see that observation. How I'm seeing things is that the corporate world and like corporate music and like Muzak, they're going to embrace AI and whore it out. But I think there's going
Yeah.
to be the hardcore people. There's going to be the 20-something James and the 20-something Ty of the year 2100 simply saying, I want to rock like it was 1999.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
they're gonna want to absolutely just go with go with the instruments, go with PA and all that jazz. Did you ever perform with in-ear monitors?
No,
No,
never.
neither did I. And being here in LA, I've been here almost 8 years now, and I've seen a couple of bands, and all their vocalists have a lot of them have in-ears, and it looks like it's causing more problems than it's solving.
And for newer modern music like modern metal, and like you go to see bands like Architects and some others that incorporate a show with
Sure.
the video and the lights and everything, and backing tracks and all this stuff. You've got to have like that click track going to
Right.
put on that kind of a show. But I just saw last week, I saw Opeth,
Mm,
and they've got all of that ambiance, all that sound, multiple harmonies, keyboards, and they did it 100% live. And the singer actually said, we don't do a single thing with a click track.
right.
They do their live show live.
Right. When did you discover a click track? And did you ever play with one, or did you ever you saw a band with one? Do you remember when that was?
I really only learned about them in the studio with Kronow.
Okay.
So the first time we went in the studio, into Rudy's studio, was the first time I'd ever used them. I'd
Right.
recorded in the past live.
Right. Okay. I remember my first click track experience is when Pinky's got the stage built in '03, and the owner was a huge Kiss fan.
Yeah.
And there was a tribute band called Kiss Army. And
Yep.
my boss booked them so in the Kiss Army, and the bassist was almost was really late, and we almost canceled. But they gave our sound guy a CD or something. It's like, hey, it's our click track, and I'm like,
Right.
what the fuck is this? Because I'm so anti click track because I think the human factor in music, in the year 2100, I think there's going to be the hardcore guys that feel like you and me, but for the Tom, Dick, Harry, and James, they're going to be okay with it. I am
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And we occasionally incorporated click tracks into practice.
Hmm.
Like if we were practicing a song and we wanted to get something really tight and it was really kind of technical and difficult, we would practice to click tracks. And I remember everyone would hate it. I would force them to do it like
Hmm.
once or twice a month.
Right.
just because, I wanted to build in that consistency, but we
Sure.
never played to them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that angle makes sense. Now, I thought your drummer Rick was really good. I don't think the man needed a click track. He was a human metronome.
Yeah, he
He
was
was
really, really good.
Yes, he was. Let's talk about your origin getting into the Denver music community because I remember
Mhm.
meeting you in 2001, if I remember right. You
That's
know,
when I
and,
first moved to Denver. Yep.
right, and you're originally from California, right?
Yep.
And I'm here, you know, and it's all
Yeah.
nutty and ironic. Okay, so when you got here and what was your first priority music wise? Did you just go to like Guitar Center, Drum City Guitar Land, post ad singer available, or what'd you do? The internet was it its infancy? How did you go
Early.
about
Yeah.
things?
So when I first moved to Colorado, I came out for work and I had friends who were living out here. So I always wanted to live in Colorado. So I was moving out for a new job,
Mm,
and kind of last minute, the guitar player for the band I was in California decided to join me.
uh-huh.
So he moved out here with me, and we started rehearsing. I forget where it was, somewhere on East Colfax. I forget what it was, like even a school or something.
Hmm.
We just started jamming, just the two of us, and that was the first time. So the band we were in California was like a rock band.
Sure.
We were opening up for touring rock acts in town and stuff, and we were no harsh vocals, just straight
Right.
up rock. And
Right.
when we moved out to Colorado, he wanted to start something heavier, so he actually like inspired me or told me to start learning how to do heavy metal growls
Mm,
and
mm,
singing, harsh singing.
right.
So I had never really even done that. So we were just practicing fooling around with that for probably 2 or 3 months. We would jam with a few people here and there, trying to put together a band.
Hmm.
And then he couldn't find a job or something with his girlfriend. I don't remember. He ended up leaving and going back. So that's when I started looking, and I forget, it was like pre-internet. I might have posted something on, like, there was a Yahoo group,
Right.
Colorado Metal
Yeah,
Yahoo
yeah, the E
group.
list. Hmm.
Yeah, and then there was like the Westward and stuff like that. So I,
Right.
I think I put an ad in the Westward, and
Hmm.
I, yeah, just went out and started jamming and auditioning with a few
Hmm.
people, until I found Kronow.
Right. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about this specifically because, the two things that are hardest in a band, in my experience, is to find a vocalist and a drummer. I think they're both
Yeah,
equally as hard. And when it comes to a vocalist, with Depth Charge, we really got lucky with Brian McEwen because I was really on an In Flames kick at the time. And I
yeah,
thought if In Flames can work around Anders, we can work around Brian. Yeah, that was my thought. And
yeah,
because some people were like some people like me personally, but didn't like my band, and some of them did not like Brian. And I'm like, fine,
yeah,
you're okay not to like him, but I will be honest with you. I dealt with so many vocalists with lead singer disease, LSD. I was
yeah,
so bleeping gun shy.
yeah,
It's like I don't care if someone can hit high C. I want to work with someone with a makeable attitude,
yeah.
you know. And in your case, James, were you offered gigs and you offered gigs before Corona and you're like, nah, that's not for me.
Not really.
Really? Okay. I find that somewhat surprising because,
Well,
you know,
again, I was new to the metal thing. I wasn't
mhm,
very good at it, frankly.
okay,
And I was just kind of learning. And like,
right.
even if you listen to Cronow's first album, it
Hmm.
was more hard rock with some metal. It was more James Hetfield style,
Right,
yeah, yes, all
right.
that shit.
Yeah,
And I wasn't that great, and I didn't know how to write metal music. I didn't know how to write metal vocals.
Right.
So yeah, I played with a couple of bands. I auditioned for a couple of people. Specifically, I remember auditioning for FOMO Fuyab.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Um, they
Yeah. Ty
were
Fury.
they were on one of their many outs with Chad.
Right.
I think they had a love-hate relationship together.
Hmm.
And I remember going and auditioning for them, and they were amazing.
Right.
But I think it was Ty, the guitar player.
Yeah. Ty Fury. Yeah.
Yeah, he was fantastic, but
Oh,
he was a bit full of himself, and like I
well,
didn't get along with them.
right.
So that
Sure.
didn't work out. And I can't remember the other bands, but probably a half a dozen others. And then when I went and auditioned for Kronow, they just played me their music and they handed me some of the songs. And then I had just a lyric sheet with me, like all my lyric book.
Right.
And I
Okay.
just remember the first night, there were like two or three songs that they played, and I'm just like, oh, I've got lyrics for that.
Right.
And
Okay.
like, he wrote like two or three songs, like
Mm.
immediately. And to me, Kronow wasn't that great. None of the
Okay.
individuals were that great. As a band, they weren't that great. But
Sure.
that's the thing that you look for is
Mm.
something just gelled.
Right. Sure. Sure. But okay, let's go back to FOMO Fuvia and Chad Armstrong. Now,
Yeah.
if you remember right, Chad joined Silencer. Did you ever see?
Yeah.
Did you ever see that lineup?
I wouldn't have seen that coming in a million years because
Okay.
when they hired him, I had actually gone and auditioned for Silencer as well
You
just before that.
did?
Yeah.
Really?
I
Really?
was stoked on that. Like, Keith is awesome and they were a fucking sick band. And I was like
Hmm.
so pumped for that audition. And then they went with Chad. I was like, fuck, man.
Okay, they picked Chad over you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
understand. Now, did Crono ever, did you ever play with Assisted Suicide Assembly when Chad was with them?
I don't remember.
Okay, I remember we Assisted Suicide Assembly, Depth Charge, and there was one other band called Deer Creek who deliberately made the show late, and Chad talked all sorts of shit at them, which was great. Chad Armstrong, outside of Bill Terrell, uses the word motherfucker more than anybody. And Chad, Chad has good, growl skills and all that. But
Yeah.
if I want to hang out with someone before I play my set, watch a football game and just talk sports. Chad's my man.
Yeah.
Ch Chad, it's great. I remember when Keith told me about Chad. He didn't tell me, you participated. That's shocking. But when
Yeah.
he says we got a new vocalist. I'm like, okay, it didn't work out with Patrick Russell. So, who is it? You're not going to believe it. I'm like, well, you just tell me who the hell you picked. And he says, we picked Chad Armstrong. I'm like, from Bumophobium? Are you fucking nuts? He's a great
Yeah.
guy, but I
Never
never
would have
saw
seen
it.
that.
Never saw it. And you know what the strange thing was? It worked.
It was
It
really good.
it
That
worked.
album was really good.
I actually filmed a show at the Black Sheep in Colorado Springs with Silencer, with Chad in the lineup. Did you know he threw up before every show?
No.
Yeah, it was just like the Black and the Black Sheep Silencer started to say here, and Chad just goes. I'm just like, Chad, you all right? You need a glass of water? Or anything? He's like, no, man, I do that every show. So I'm just like, wow,
That's
yeah.
crazy. It's funny. Singers have like these pre-show things.
What were
Like
yours?
I used to scream backstage as hard and as long as I could
Hmm.
until I nearly blacked out. Like
Wow.
literally just off in the wings, I would do that. And then like I would go out on stage sometimes like fuzzy headed.
Hmm. And
I
that
don't
just
know
worked.
why. It just
It just
worked.
it just worked. Okay. That's interesting. Now, the last go around we talked Ogden Gothic, the NIPP. Now, in terms of the suburban places you joined,
Yep.
what what places in your mind you favored more than others, or is there one place you're just like, oh God, I'm never playing here again?
Um, I always liked playing at the Isle of Park Saloon.
Right.
They went through stages. They went through time periods where they had really good sound and really good sound people. Then they went through stages where it was shit, but it was a
Mhm.
good room.
Right.
Um, I didn't love playing there, but one place we played a ton that we had great shows at was Sportsfield Rocks.
Right. Now, I'm going to go back to Keith Spargo for a second because he describes Sportsfield Rocks. He's like, that was an era where anybody could put up two sports jerseys and call themselves a sports bar. And I have to say, yeah, he's right on that. Sportsfield definitely epitomized that.
Absolutely.
Now at Sportsfield Rocks, that was near the DAV where Kronow set up shop. So of course you naturally were inclined to play there.
Wasn't Sportsfield the one on West Colfax?
No, that's Schwartzfield's East Colfax. West Colfax was Whiskey Bill's.
Whiskey Bills, that was the
Okay, and
other
that, and,
one.
and that's when Bill Terrell was running inside. Matter of fact, you opened for Metal Church there, if I remember right.
Yes, we did.
Right.
We didn't play there often,
No,
but yeah, I remember that. And then the other big one that gave us a lot of breaks was the House of Rock.
mhm,
House of Rock was awesome. I loved that
right.
place.
Now, did you guys ever get a guarantee, or did you just always do door? Because Rogue got us housing.
I
You
think
know,
towards the end, when we played some of the bigger NIPP shows, opening for bigger bands, we would get a small guarantee, like
right. Okay.
200 or $200, something like
Right,
that.
sure. I was wondering, it's like very few got guarantees. We all know how Rogue did their business. And
Yep,
it worked. It was fine. We're not dissing it by any stretch of the imagination. It's like,
yep,
comes to the show, you go back to the DAV and party, and that's how it worked, and it worked for them. Um,
yep.
you guys had a street team, if I remember right.
Towards the end, yeah.
Who set that up?
Look, it just kind of happened. So
Mm,
MySpace was a huge thing for us,
right,
and we got a lot of followers from MySpace. And I remember at the time, there were like a couple of girl groups who were like fans of all the bands. And
mhm,
they were like showing up to shows and putting together, like they would show up as a group and they would promote bands on their MySpace page and stuff like that.
right,
And so we kind of hired one group like that. We actually paid them.
right,
So they did that for us for a little while. And then we kind of built our own,
right.
from this group of high school friends in on MySpace that
Mhm.
wanted to start supporting us as a band, and they kind of wanted to set themselves up as like a street team for multiple bands, and we
Mhm.
were like their first band. So
Right,
they worked classes off, and we didn't pay them anything.
right. They just wanted to hang with you. They
Yeah,
just, right. Um, how did you handle that? You were a pretty well respected guy. You know, you know,
thank you.
who would you consider your closest allies, the best friend relationships you made? Not necessarily just not just bandmates, but maybe from other bands and maybe some media people. Who rubbed you right?
Without a doubt, beyond any other, Bill Terrell.
Right.
He was like a complete mentor to me and all the guys in Rogue.
Hmm.
But Ted Beer, I think,
Hmm.
was cousins with Johnny or something like
Yeah,
that.
sure is.
So there was always a connection there. And just from the very beginning, Rogue was always helping us. They gave us kind of some of our first shows. And I saw Bill, the way that he ran the business side of the band, and I
Hmm.
just attached onto that. And I tried to
Right.
emulate that. And he saw that, and I think he appreciated that. And he kind of
Hmm.
unofficially took me under his wing, and he told
Hmm.
me all the things that I needed to do. And
Right.
he would see that he would tell me something, and I would go do it. And then
Right.
he would tell me another thing, and then I would go do it.
Right. Sure. Sure. The one now, were you ever officially affiliated with Infectious Records?
Yeah.
Were you? Okay. What did
We
that
were at the
consist
end.
of? What did that
Not
consist of?
much, to be
Okay.
honest. Not
Okay.
much. Some promotion. They were trying to do more. They were trying to put together a label that would get some money and actually get the band something, but I don't think they ever got to that point.
Sure.
So what I would say is it was really just a promotional vehicle.
Okay. No, okay, that makes sense. I got nothing against it because I got a show at the Bluebird for out of it. It didn't cost me a dime and anything like that. I'm just
Yep.
like, it's like, Bill's like Infectious Records. I'm like, great, where's your records? So I
Yeah.
know,
No, they never got it to that point. They were really trying, but yeah, we never really got that much out of that other than some recognition.
right,
So some of the other people I would say, Mark Obermeyer,
right,
without a doubt, he pointed me in a lot of the right directions, and just musically and as a producer, he was amazing.
right.
Morris Beagle was really good.
Hmm. Okay. Now, I put a click. It's on the website. I assembled my all-time dream team lineup from the Denver circuit, and I hope you clicked on it. I hope
Yeah,
I hope in a way you're
I
honored, but
appreciate
we
it
would
very much.
we would be a complete Lacuna Coil ripoff, but we would sound great. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
again, if you could assemble a lineup, anybody, what would it be?
I thought about this long and hard, and I really struggled with it. Because what I would say, I don't know if you knew this or not, but after we disbanded Kronow,
Hmm.
we actually put together what I thought was going to be like the dream band.
Hmm.
So it was me and Nathan,
Right.
and then from Corruption,
Hmm.
Mark,
Okay.
Nick, Sean.
Really?
So
Okay.
it was a ridiculously talented group. So you had me and Mark doing trade-off vocals.
Right.
You had Nick, who's ridiculous, and Nate and
Right.
Sean together, two very different style
Hmm.
guitar players, but it was really cool.
That would actually be a pretty
And
fucking good lineup. We both
it
agree.
was fucking,
Nick Student, I think, you could. There's a lot of great drummers in it, that are recognized, but I think Nick Student, talent-wise, was up there with all of them, in my opinion.
without a doubt, he
He
was
was a
unbelievable.
he was a trip hammer. I'm on a level with you, James. One of the seeds of building this archive is when he died last year.
Yeah,
His death bothered me very badly.
yeah,
I did not know him to be of bad habits or have anything inherent. Him and I, we always got along well. And just, when he died, I'm just like, man, we're all gonna fade away unless we do something, you
yeah.
know. And I just think that, when people think of drummers, I'm just gonna say in my own way, somebody say it's like, you want to know greatness? Nick Student. That's greatness.
Yep, he was phenomenal. And we were super pumped on that, and it just didn't work out. Like
Mm,
sometimes you put together what you think is a dream lineup and
mm,
it just doesn't work out, like stupid things like getting Mark and Nick to show up to rehearsal. Like
right,
half the time it was me, Sean, and Nate.
right,
Um, and it just didn't seem to gel right.
right,
So, a lot of it has to do just with that interpersonal chemistry.
right,
You can pick the
sure,
greatest players and put them together, but it just, for whatever reason, doesn't work.
sure. I would, I jammed with Nathan Salas in the past, and I just thought he's all talent, little ego, and very reliable. He's he
Absolutely.
he's magnificent.
So when he
Now,
joined the band,
mm,
the business side of the band
mm,
took off. It doubled
right,
because I finally had someone who was as committed to it as I was.
right, yeah. Instead, it's like um, did, he didn't come to Kronow like a package deal, remember? Because he had that drummer Greg. I'm trying to remember his last name, but he was a hell
Yep.
of a talent. You know,
Yep.
Greg was hella talented, but you already had Rick at the time, right? Or was that Kenny
No, we
Garza?
didn't have Rick originally. So when Nate joined the band, Kenny was still our
Right,
drummer.
right,
And Kenny was a brilliant drummer. He was like, but he wasn't a metal drummer, which actually made him kind of cool.
right,
He played metal, but he was like a jazz fusion drummer.
right,
So yeah, when Nate joined, it was Kenny. So it was still Kenny and Phil in the band when Nate joined.
right, sure. Now, when Kenny left to join Rogue, I kept quiet. I kept quiet about it. I'm just kind of like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm just, I didn't want to say anything. I'm just kind of like, okay, I can understand that, but it's like you both rehearsed at the DAV. Didn't that feel a little awkward for a minute, or were you guys just cool about
No,
it all? Right,
no, not at all. So Kenny and Phil leaving at about the same time had more to do with the fact that me and Nate were
right,
pushing harder to do more. We were
right,
starting to do, 1, 2, 3 week long tours. We were
sure,
playing more often, practicing more often. Like me and Nate were pushing and full on into it.
right.
And Kenny and Phil just couldn't commit to it.
Right, sure. Okay, as long as people are just honest about that and everyone says, okay, thanks, the run's over, time to make a change and stuff like that. I
Yep.
commended you for getting Forrest on board, even though it wasn't long. I thought she was a great player, but she was on a list of bands before joining you that weren't so great.
Yeah.
I thought she was a tremendous talent.
She was awesome and she was a blast to hang out with. And she was such a good person. And she brought a ton of different stuff. Her and Nate together were like really good.
Right.
And then Randy, Randy doesn't get mentioned a lot, but Randy was that rock solid guitar player, would do
Mm-hmm.
whatever you asked of him,
Mm-hmm.
was committed to the band, would put in the time, was always there and on time, and he was my best friend in the band. Like
Sure.
him and his family, they were like a second family to me.
Okay, yeah, I said I remember when we did did my audition, for you guys. No, Rick and Randy and Nate were all great, had a good time. It just, it was the right decision. You picked Forrest, you picked right. And I will say I shared with you in an email. I just remember, the CD release show, and Forrest had a boyfriend, and just going up there and he said, "Hi, I'm Forrest's boyfriend." I'm like, "Cool, uh, cool. She's a great gal. We're not, don't worry
Yeah,
about nothing, man." So I'm just kind of thinking like Tom Cruise proclaiming his love for Katie Holmes on Oprah thinks this is kind of pushing it, dude. Just a little bit.
yeah,
That's okay. It's like, dude,
yeah.
no one's gonna go after her.
It was a
She's
it was a little weird. And I even remember their wedding being a little weird. I was like, I just don't see this lasting. And it
right.
didn't, but
Whatever that may
Forrest
be.
is not the type of person like from what I see. I just never saw Forrest being tied down to anything. She was
Right.
like she was like almost out of the 60s.
Hmm.
She was like true hippie.
She had the hair that fit the role for that. Certainly
Yeah.
did. But I just, but going back, and I just keep looking back, and then one of the things is just relationships.
Mm.
Relationships, to me, I think are worth more than anything. And I just, I would just, I would just say that, you know, the people I met in my journey, including you, I will remember. It's like I think Gary Harper from Typhoid Mary and Brian McEwen, my singer, they were
Yeah.
friends. And if I remember right, we got your CD release show opening slot because of Jerry. I don't know if Jerry said, "Hey,
Jerry's
can we throw?"
awesome.
Yeah,
I don't
Jerry's
remember who brought it up, but in terms of bands we were most close with, it would have been
right.
Rogue and Typhoid Mary. Um, who else? The other ones that we became really close with was shit. What's the name of the band now? Jason Sletter
Oh
played in the
wow.
band. Um, damn, I can't think of his. They were like System of a Down.
Okay, all right,
They were, oh, the name will come to me. I'm just
right,
blanking on it at the
right.
moment.
Well,
Um,
it's only been 20 years minimum, if not longer.
yeah, I just had
What
an
the
old
stuff we're
man
talking
mind.
about, you know. But I'll say this. Um, would you have done anything differently?
Nah,
No, neither,
no,
neither would I.
like it all. It all happened for a reason. Everything we did was a blast.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look, the only thing I look back on and have some regret and feel bad about, and I've spoken with Ted about this since then.
Hmm.
Um, Having to kick Ted out of the band, that's probably the thing I feel the worst about. I wouldn't change it,
Sure,
but that was the hardest thing. That was his band, but
sure,
his personal situation was just untenable for the rest of us.
sure. And I would say this because I don't have a bad word to say about the guy. Him and I've
Yeah,
never had a bad experience or anything. But James, I will just say this about you and Kronow. You had a twinge of ruthlessness in you, and it had to be done.
yeah,
There has to be a twinge of that because if there's discord, it's going to show and it's going to spread. And
yeah,
I will just say this: if I all those decisions that were made, they turned out to be the right ones in my book.
yeah.
Eh. All right, explain to me Mandrake. I did not understand why I understand why Kronow ended Kronow as it did, but I saw you in Mandrake. I'm sure you know what you're doing, but I don't get it. What was up with that?
Um, that kind of came about almost, on a bit of a whim. So once I had left Kronow, I was trying to do a couple of different things. We tried to do that supergroup thing with the guys from Corruption.
Right.
I tried out for Silencer. I was playing with Switchpin for a little
Mm.
while.
Right.
Um, and then just out of nowhere, like I didn't know those guys very well at all.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in kind of sitting in. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was because I knew the guys from and sat in on some Gashead stuff.
Okay.
So they were both from up in Fort Collins. So I think that's how Ron got in contact with me. But if you remember, the Ron and the guitar player had an amp company called Madison Amps,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now I remember. Okay.
and they were going to the NAMM show in
Mm-hmm.
LA,
Well,
and showcasing Madison Amps at NAMM, and they had a, a playing slot. The
sure.
Mandrake did, and they had no singer, and they just asked if I would sit in on it.
Sure.
So I went and learned half a dozen of their songs and went and did that. Went to LA with them, had an amazing time, had an absolute blast. And at the time, I was playing for Switchpin,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know. I really enjoyed their music. I thought their playing was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to introduce a little bit of like In Flames,
Right.
some clean singing into what they were doing. Not a lot, but just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was looking for something more musical. They were
Sure.
very like they were heavy, but they were very melodic, and
Sure.
they were pushing me as a singer to do different things and to try different things and be better. And that's what I was looking for when I left Kronow. I was
Right.
looking to
Oh,
be.
sure. Okay.
So
Now,
it ended up it wasn't the greatest fit, but
mm,
I did it because I wanted to get out of my comfort zone.
sure. All right, I'm gonna do one last subject, and it's not part of the archive, so to speak, but it's more about
Yeah.
the internet and how we experienced it. Is that when we discovered it in the 90s in its infancy, where everyone had their own interpretation, but we all remember Napster
Yep.
and how Metallica stood against that, even though they might have been right. the position they took made them look really greedy. But that to
Yep.
me was the dangerous first domino of how the internet could have, could in the industry in terms of its revenue could be ruined. You know,
Yep.
what
And they turned out to be right.
right. I thought Metallica, and I say looking back, their biggest mistake was not, going against Napster, is that they went at it alone.
Yeah.
They look bad while every other band's like, Metallica's right, but they're looking like assholes, so let's look like good guys. That kind of thing. You know,
Yep.
in in terms of revenue, moving forward, you still attend concerts and other whatnots. And I think as much as I am thankful for without today's technology, I could not do the archive as I'm doing it today. Without Zoom, without social media and all that. But I think
Yep.
camera phones have cheapened the live music experience.
Yeah, look, people are, everyone's recording everything. I find myself recording things that I never go back and look at, but I like to have those little snippets and those, a picture or two. But yeah, I think people like record everything. So just as an example, my son he's 19 now. He took my two younger daughters, 13 and 15, to their first concert,
Mm-hmm.
to a Tyler the Creator concert.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they had him record the whole thing. He's like, literally, they were recording, and I told them to stop and enjoy the show, and like he recorded the whole thing for them.
Right.
I think it's just part of the generation.
Sure. 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 Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording there.